Finally. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Dugai, coming at y'all with another episode of Dropping Dimes with Mr. Dugai. And tonight, man, I'm going to talk about the LSU Tigers have hired Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly to be the next head coach of the LSU Tigers. And I'm going to just give my thoughts and everything on that. Before I get into this video, for everyone, if you want to give me a follow on my social media platforms, I'm gonna have all that information down in the description box. May not always get a chance to respond to questions and comments on these videos, so feel free to DM me. And whenever I get a chance to, I'll get back at you. Come holler at your boy. Also, if you're a Madden 22 player on Xbox One, I'm gonna have my Xbox One gamer tag down in the description box also. Y'all can hear a beeping noise throughout the video. I do apologize for that. Please disregard it. Sorry, I am extremely late with this video. I've been having a lot of connection issues the last couple of days that I finally got resolved. So I do apologize that I'm like 24 hours late with this video. But nevertheless, here we go. Uh, Brian Kelly is the head coach at LSU now. You know, it's pros and cons to it, honestly. Initially, when I first seen the news, I really was not thrilled about it, honestly. Simply because I kind of wanted us to take a shot at Dave Aranda when we didn't get Lincoln Riley. And I was a big fan of Billy Napier, and I was upset that we didn't even really consider him at all. And Brian Kelly was somebody that was really off of the radar. First, I'm gonna say the things that concern me about him, and then I'm gonna say the reason why over the last 24 hours or whatnot, I'm actually feeling a lot more optimistic about this hire. The things that concern me about LSU having Brian Kelly as head coach is one, he's 60 years old, which is not extremely old, and I know people gonna be like Nick Saban is 70 and stuff like that. But I say 60 because he's coming into the South where he really has no tie-ins at all down here in the South. And what I worry about is, can you go into these? Now, granted, you're going to get kids that just want to go to LSU. I could be the coach there and then come into LSU. There's the transfer portal where you're going to get, kids in the transfer portal, or young men in the transfer portal. Um, I think he's going to do a good job building this offensive line a little better. Like he going to get us better offensive line recruits. But I'm concerned as far as that him being 60 is a lot of people when they get to that age, they kind of stuck in their ways. When I would look at Brian Kelly from afar, I'll be like, yo, this guy doesn't look like a very likable guy. Like looking at him from afar over the years. And you got to come down here in the South and you got to build these relationships with these coaches and things of that nature. And do he have the moxie and just the charisma to to look good in the outside in the eyes of the beholders out here, which are the recruits and the coaches. That concerns me, and another reason I say that is because back in, I want to say it was 2008, LSU basketball fired John Brady and hired Trent Johnson from Stanford, which similar is an academic institution, just like Notre Dame is. And Trent Johnson's first year there, he had, guys like Tasman Mitchell and Garrett Temple, Marcus Thornton. He had a talented roster. And I think LSU won the SEC that year, regular season title, I want to say, and took North Carolina, went toe to toe with North Carolina, who won the eventual national championship. But after that, he couldn't recruit in the South. Like he did a horrible job at recruiting in the South, in particular in Louisiana. So that's the one thing that I'm a little concerned about when it comes to Brian Kelly. And like I said, the no ties to the South. Now, after much thought about it and really thinking about it, these are the things that actually get me happy and optimistic about the hire. He's a good coach, like there's no denying that he is a good football coach. He's a good X's and O's guy and a really good football coach. He's had success the last couple of stops that I remember. He was at Cincinnati. Cincinnati was like ranked third or fourth in the country or something like that. Then he got the Notre Dame job. And at Notre Dame, he had a lot of success in a place that, let's be honest, this is not the Notre Dame of the 1980s and all that. It's hard to win at Notre Dame now with the academic restrictions that they have when it comes to recruiting players. You're gonna have a couple of really good players, but when you get into the national championship in 2012 and you go up against Alabama, your roster, you don't have a roster that could compete with that roster. When you get into the college football playoff against Clemson and then against Alabama again, you don't have the roster that could compete with those rosters. And it's not because you're not a great recruiter, it's because it's just different levels of recruiting, that's going on with each institution. And Brian Kelly, though he's limited in the type of athletes that he could have to fill up a roster at Notre Dame, he still managed to get to a BCS national championship game and to make it to the college football playoffs two other times. So he is a good football coach. Yo. That's something that we cannot deny, we cannot take away from him. Another thing that gives me optimism is the fact that he wanted to be here. He could have stayed, he wants the challenge of winning a national championship. That is something that is eluding him. And he knows coming to a place like LSU, he has a great opportunity to win a national championship. If we could win one with Les Miles and Coach O, we could win one with Brian Kelly. Um, Another thing, a real big thing that gives me a lot of optimism when it comes to him coming down here is Marcus Freeman. Now he's told Marcus Freeman that he will make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football if he does indeed decide to take the defensive coordinator job at LSU. Now a lot of Notre Dame people are saying that they want him to be strongly considered for the head coaching job at Notre Dame. And that very well may be the case. We'll see. But if he gets overlooked for the head coaching job, you gotta think that he will come down to Baton Rouge and be the defensive coordinator, for the LSU Tigers, especially considering that last year, it came down to Notre Dame or LSU as far as where he will work and be a defensive coordinator. So if the guy so if Brian Kelly wants him at LSU and he doesn't have a head coaching opportunity, I think it's a great chance that he ends up as the LSU Tigers defensive coordinator, which is something that would make me extremely, extremely happy, about the whole situation. So you got that. Another thing is apparently he's keeping Corey Raymond and he's keeping Kevin Falk. Now for Corey Raymond, he's the architect of DBU. Obviously, that's one thing I was worried about. I hope whoever the next coach is will be smart enough to retain him. And thankfully, Brian Kelly was smart enough to retain Corey Raymond, the architect of DBU. And with Kevin Falk, I wouldn't have been surprised if he was no longer the running backs coach, but if he still, was working with the university in some type of capacity, then I would still be excited and appreciate that. But it looks like they're going to keep him on as the running backs coach, which is good. And with those two guys, especially when you got a coach coming in that doesn't have any ties to the South, obviously hasn't coached here or nothing like that, you need guys that could go out there and recruit. Guys that are well respected, that could go in these neighborhoods and talk to these kids and get them to come to LSU. So that's where I think a guy like Corey Raymond, besides his X's and O's, of course, and a guy like Kevin Falk, LSU legend, those guys walking in the living rooms and talking to these players, I think that's something that's going to only enhance Brian Kelly's ability to recruit at LSU. Now, look, like I said, LSU recruits itself, man. LSU is such a national brand that it recruits itself. But I trust in Brian Kelly and his ability to be a good head coach, a good X's and O's guy. But I need him to go out there and prove to all his LSU fans that he can recruit with the best of them down here in the South, though he's kind of late to the party. But I'm okay with the hire right now. Obviously we have a better coach than we had previously, so that's always a factor. And I'm just ready to get these things rolling and see how he do, man. I'm rooting for it. But with that being said, that's all I got for y'all tonight. Appreciate y'all checking out the video. Hit the like button for your boy. Give me a subscribe. I'm gonna have LSU, NCAA, and content on my other teams throughout the year. Y'all have a blessed one. Go Tigers.